the Rams at Green Bay. Now, this feels like this matchup could all pivot on whether Matthew Stafford's going to be able to play or not. We were having a chat before we came live. Do you think that he's going to sit out a week, got the bye next week, and that makes this matchup one we don't really want to touch?
It would make sense. It's going to be a cold weather game up in Green Bay. I assume that having a thumb injury in cold weather probably is less than ideal. We know Matthew Stafford is a tough guy. We know that he doesn't like to miss games and he plays through injuries a lot. But for the Rams, the Rams are probably looking at trying to sneak in on a wild card place to the playoffs. I don't think it makes sense to go out there now and risk aggravation when, frankly, you could put Brett Ripien, the backup quarterback, you could put him in and possibly stand a chance against this Green Bay team who don't seem to be able to avoid, getting out of their own way. I think what we saw from Green Bay early this season was incredibly impressive. Jordan Love was driving the ball downfield, not completing many passes, but it was enough and it was fantasy relevant. And what we've seen is that regressed as you would expect it to. He's now the QB 14, Luke Musgrave's tight end 26, Aaron Jones RB 30, Romeo Doubs wide receiver 40, Christian Watson is at 8.5 points per game over the last 4 games. And it's tricky because you want those home run hitters in your lineup. And if you bench Christian Watson and he goes off for a slate-breaking kind of score, you're going to be kicking yourself after taking the L's that you've taken for the last 4 weeks. But I just don't view him necessarily as startable, even in this game against the Rams defense that has kind of regressed slightly over the last few weeks. Cooper Kupp, I'd be starting Cooper Kupp. I know it's been rough. He's had 17 targets and only 6 receptions over the last 2 games. But when you look back over the course of his career, this is the first time that he's had back-to-back games with less than 30 yards. Like, this is the first single-digit performance he's had in the last 2 years. I think that even if Matthew Stafford's out, I'd have enough confidence in him that I'd be starting him. The Rams running back situation, I'd still start Darrell Henderson. Royce Freeman seems to be mixing in, but seems to have less of a role than Henderson. Tyler Higbee has been pretty uninspiring. He's tight end 21 in points per game. If you need to start him, I guess you could start him. Perhaps Brett Ripien comes in and sort of, takes those layup shots. But yeah, and just the Green Bay Packers running back room, like I said, Aaron Jones, 1 double-digit performance this year. He's had back-to-back games where he's only had 11 touches in each of them. Normally, we'd expect that to be much closer to 20, but whether he's still injured or they just want to try and get A.J. Dillon, who's a completely ineffective backup-level running back, involved, I don't know. But whatever's going on, it's not working particularly great for the Packers.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm looking for the Packers to do is we've got all these young options. We've got almost too many options. I feel like we need to just streamline it a little bit. And they're going to say, right, we're going to be an 11 personnel offense. We're going to run with Musgrave, Reed, Watson, Doubs, and Aaron Jones. And let's see if we can get that and drive that forward. I think Luke Musgrave, we saw some hype early in the season. He had the concussion. He missed a few weeks. I'm intrigued to see if he's going to help kind of bring that spark into this offense. I think that would be really interested. Cooper Kupp, you said you got to start him. I think, look, if you're Brett Ripien, you're probably out of your depth. What are you going to do? You're going to feed the ball to the guy that you know is always open, and that's Cooper Kupp. So, yeah, the targets are probably going to be pretty low quality, low value targets, but I think he could see a high volume. On the Brett Ripien, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say on Cooper Kupp, this stat via Sharp Football, the Packers struggle against slot receivers, allowing 9.2 yards per target, which is the 5th highest, and giving up a league-high 9.1% touchdown rate to interior wide receivers. So everything points towards starting him.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the other point is that obviously the Packers have just traded away Rasul Douglas, the corner. I know we're not going to talk a huge amount about that, but that's, a big piece out of this Packers secondary that is now shipped off to Buffalo. So the Packers secondary is even weaker than they've been so far through the season. But we were talking about Brett Ripien, and I think this is a really interesting point that I want to bring in here from Tarek, another one of our YouTube members. Welcome. If you want to be like Tarek and be a member, hit that join button. He's saying basically we're getting all this hype around these spot start rookies that we've not seen. He's saying, is it a new phrase, Purdied, because of the success he had last year from nowhere, and people are always clamoring for that next guy?
I think so. And I think it's always, there's something about the quarterback position in general that people like to romanticize. And it's, probably goes back to like the Tom Brady pick in the draft and stuff, that guys can come out of nowhere and they can have these games. Look, like Tyler Huntley a couple of years ago was being bigged up as the next big thing, and that all these teams should trade for him. And really, it comes crashing down sooner or later. The thing we've seen with Purdy is that Purdy deserves more praise than he possibly gets, but it's also that Shanahan system. If any of these players were playing in the Shanahan system, as we've seen over the years, is really friendly to the quarterbacks, then I'd have a bit more faith in that kind of situation. But Sean McVay's offense probably isn't as quarterback friendly as that. I mean, he likes things done in a very specific way. Yes, Baker Mayfield went in last year and had that fantastic performance straight off the plane, but generally speaking, I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical of those kind of players.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I'm a numbers guy. I'm always going to lean back to that probability. And as I said, the chances that one of these late round rookie quarterbacks turns into the next Brock Purdy, we're probably looking at somewhere around 5%. The chances that that second round pick turns into a usable, valuable fantasy option moving forward is around 15%. 15% is bigger than 5%. I'm always going to take the 15% over the 5%. So for me, I think if you can get a second round pick for pretty much any of these guys, I'm happy to take that. We've seen, let's be honest, more of the preseason hyped guys, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Aiden O'Connell, when they have started, they looked abysmal despite all the hype that they were getting in the preseason. So yeah, I'm happy to pivot, move off them, and yeah, it probably means I miss out on the next Brock Purdy, but it means I'll get an awful lot more second round picks.